to Mem Hey Amud Aleph. It's about 8 lines from the top. It's a quote from the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that someone that had permission to leave his tchum, the examples for that was he was going to testify about the new month, or he was going to save from some sort of enemy, or from a river, or to call a midwife. So, and he ended up outside the tchum. So he has 2,000 amas then. He said he had permission to go, they give him 2,000 amas. If he's within the tchum, it's as if he didn't leave. And then we said that anyone that left to rescue is allowed to return. That's really nice. So, the Gemara asks, Afilu Tuva? What does it mean he left to rescue? How distant is he that you're giving him this option of returning? Did he go more than 2,000 amas? Probably yes. Otherwise, if he was within 2,000 amas, then it wouldn't have to be specifically that he went to rescue. He would anyways be allowed to return. It must be that he went further than 2,000 amas, and he's still allowed to return. Obviously, it has to tell me a chiddush. Gemara says, "V'amet reisha alpayim amma v'suloi." But 1 second. One of the cases in the Mishnah, we didn't actually say that, but if he is outside the 2,000 amas, then he gets the 2,000 amas from his new location. If he's within the 2,000 amas, he can return. So we're asking, so why does he get 2,000? Why is he able to return if he went to rescue? That was one of the cases in the beginning of the Mishnah where he wasn't able to return if he passed 2,000 amas. You're right. He really is limited to whatever we said in the Reisha. 2,000 amas. He's within 2,000 amas, and that's why he can return. So what's the chiddush? You have to repeat it for each case. The chiddush is that they're able to carry. It's a chiddush not in tchumen. It's a chiddush in haitzah, in carrying. The laws of tchumen is walking. There's no chiddush in haitzah. There's no chiddush in tchumen. He's only allowed to walk the 2,000 amas. Chiddush is that they're allowed to carry their armor. They're allowed to take it with them. They don't have to drop it somewhere. On their way out, of course, they're carrying because they're going to save, rescue, whatever, of battle. But who says they could take it back? So that's what we're saying. Chayzalim Kaiman, we left out the main point, together with their weapons. The Gemara says in my kushya, what was your question originally? Dilmalahatil shiny. The original question was that in the Reisha, you said you only have 2,000 amas. Now, in the Sefer, you're saying that maybe you have more than 2,000 amas. How could it be more? I'll tell you a simple teretz. Over here, it's Sakanas Nefashos. They went out to save, and they get more than 2,000 amas. How do you know that it's only a chiddush in haitzah, in carrying? Maybe the chiddush here is in tchumen, that they're allowed to go further because this is a special case. Eli kasha. Rather, the original question was slightly different. The Tanana was taught in the Mishnah Be'eda Berishayna. At the beginning, we're talking about Eida Sachedesh. People are testifying about the new month. Originally, the people would go to testify. They would leave the tchum. They were stuck in that place. Gamliel instituted that they should get more than just that dalar amas that they came to after their testimony. They should get alpayim am l'chol roah. And that takana that Rabbi Eiruvin Daf instituted, it wasn't only for Eidus HaChodesh, it was for the people testifying that they cited the new moon. Even a midwife that's coming also gets 2,000 amas. Someone that's rescuing from a invading army, Minanar from a river, Minapapila, something that collapsed, Minadleka from a fire. Bring Kanchir, they get the status of the people in that city. They get 2,000 amas. Okay, let's read that together. Okay, now the Gemara asks, Besulai, they only get 2,000 amas. 1 second. If they're going to rescue, save, we said that they could even go back. It's more than 2,000 amas. What was that takana that Rabbi Gamliel said? Rabbi Yida Marav says that they could, it's a chiddush in Hilchas Eitzah, that they could carry their things back. So in other words, we presented the question with a brisa or a mishnah. That's why we had a question. Because we said that they only get the 2,000 amas from the new location. So what are you saying? We said that they could go back. And then we have an answer that the truth is that they really only have the 2,000 amas, either from the original location or from the new location. So what's the chiddush? The chiddush is that, as we said before, Rabbi Yehuda Marav says that it's a chiddush in Hilchos Eitzah. They're allowed to carry. Kid the Tanya, as we'll start in a brisa. If there was a battle, people would leave their armor, their weapons, in a house near the wall. They wouldn't bring it back into the city. They would bring it somewhere, like right outside the city, by some storage house or something. One time, the enemies realized that, and they ran after them. So they went to get their weapons. And the enemies entered in after them into this place where they're getting their probably swords, spears, whatever. So the area was tight, it was narrow, it was a narrow entranceway. And they started to push each other. Because of that difficult situation, the people themselves ended up killing more than what the enemies killed because they were trying to get out. So they then instituted that you don't put your weapons in this one storage location and then everyone has to go get them in case there's a problem. What you do is everyone keeps the weapons together with themselves, on themselves. Which makes sense. That's more logical. Okay. They were trying to avoid carrying from outside into the city. They put it all outside. They said, no, you keep it. So the chiddush here is a chiddush in Hilchas Eitzah, carry. Nachman Yitzchak says, actually, it's not really a contradiction. Because Kansha Natzchu Yisrael Esam Salem, Kansha Natzchu Salem Esatzman. Depends who was victorious. If you finish the enemy off, then you wait outside the city. Then you don't get the 2,000 amas. But you don't go more than 2,000 amas back to the city. You only have 2,000 amas from your location. However, if the enemy was victorious, then they let you go back, even if it's more than 2,000 amas. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Rav. Nachrim Shetzaru al Yaris Yisrael. If non-Jews are laying siege to a Jewish city, you don't go out with weapons. We're going to see in a moment that that's not every situation. It's in a specific case. Tanya Nami Haki, there's also a Bryce. That was it. What we just learned is a statement from Rabbi Yehuda Marav, but there's also a Bryce in Nachum Shetzar Chulu. It's the same Bryce, the same word, so it says just Chulu, etc. When do we say that you don't go out with weapons? That's only if they wanted money. But if it's a matter of life and death, Shabbos as well. It's a matter of life and death. If it's a city that's close to the border and they're laying siege to that city, even if they're not coming for a matter of life and death, but even if they're coming just to get straw, you go out with weapons. Why? Because if they overtake the city, then that's an entranceway to the rest of the area. And the barriers the protective barriers are down. So that becomes dangerous, even if their intention at this point is only for straw, hay and straw.
This is the famous Gemara that the Rebbe would quote about Shlema Saharis.
Yeah, what would they say over there? They would say, they would go in a protest. They would besides all of the things Rabin Bo gave and Barak Bo gave, and besides all of those slogans, they would shout Siman Shin Chav Tes, I think. There's some, which is different. Anyway, okay. Amar Rav Yosef Bar Menumi, Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Yosef Bar Menumi says in the name of Rav Nachman, Bavel K'ir Asmuchel Esvardami. Bavel has that status. Has a status of a city that's next to the border. Which means if there's any issues in Bavel, you machal Shabbos. People are coming to a city with Tirgma, and he explained Nardai. Which city in Bavel? Not the whole Bavel. It's Nardai, which is interesting because I think we know that Nardai was actually attacked at a certain point. Not as an anti-Semitic attack. I think it was just attacked by an enemy in the days of Shmuel. And I think the yeshiva closed in Nardai, and Rabbi Yehuda, that's Shmuel's student, had to move the yeshiva to Pumbedisa. The opening of the yeshiva in Pumbedisa by Rabbi Yehuda was because of an attack on Nardai. We know that from some historical sources. Okay, Darash Rab Destoid Min Biri. Destoid from Biri taught, Maidak Siva Yegidala David Lamar, Ni Plishtim Lacham Bekiila. They mashaisim as a garanus. Look up what the pasuk is before that. Yeah. Behold, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah, and they robbed the threshing floors. I don't know before. They told David that the Plishtim have entered into Keilah, and they took the grain. So, and David goes to ask by the Urim V'Tumim. No, he asks by Shmuel, I think. It can't be he asks Shmuel. He asked by the Urim V'Tumim. Let me see. Tana Keilah Smuchel Sfar Haisa. 1 second. Keilah is a city that's near the border. They just came for grain. They came for straw. That they took what was by the threshing floor. It says that David asked by Hashem, he must have asked the Urim V'Tumim, should he go and fight by Shat Sakila and save them? Okay, so David had a question. Should he go to the battle? Michael Miboile. What was the shaila? If you say, the question was, is he allowed to? There's an assumption here that it's on Shabbos. Tesis points it out. This assumption here is that it's on Shabbos, and David didn't know if he's allowed to go and do a battle. Let's get to Tevin Bakash on Shabbos. So the Gemara says that's impossible. But 1 second, at that point, the Beis Din of Shmuel was still around. Why is he asking the Urim B'tumim? You have to ask the Beis Din. It's not a shaila for the Urim B'tumim. Halachic shailas have to go to the right source. You don't get that information from asking the Urim B'tumim. So, the Urim B'tumim, you can ask if you're going to be successful. Will I be successful? Should I go to this battle? Not halachically if you're allowed to. So, it must be that it's clearly allowed. And the whole shaila was, will he be successful? The economic diksiv, there's a diak there that they told the Urim B'tumim told him, go and you'll rescue that man, that he's going to be successful. That was part of his question. His question was, will I be successful? And the Gemara here is bringing this in to show that there's no shaila that you go to battle, even al escape Tevin Bakash, if it's a border city. Even if the enemy just wants money, you still go out to battle even on Shabbos. So what was his question? His question was just if he's going to be victorious. Yeah. Someone told me recently that Moshe Feinstein held that they should give back land at a certain point, based on the deals. And Rabbi Khan went to talk to him, and he explained to him the Gemara. Moshe was a very patient person. He sat and he listened to the way Rabbi explained the Gemara and the Shulchan Aruch. And he said, "Thank you very much for explaining it to me, and I see you taught me how to learn the Sugya." So anyway, that was, I think the Rebbe sent Rabbi Yoel to talk to him, because you can learn this different ways, Rabbi Yoel. That's a way of explaining things. Okay. It was machlekes. Mishnah says, Mishiyasha b'derech. Someone that's on the road. Ba'amad. The gears of the sheiltais is Mishiyasham b'derech. He was sleeping on the road. Ba'amad, and he gets up for Ra, and he sees Hareyu samach la'ir. Sees, I'm next to the city. He didn't realize. He didn't realize he was near the city, but he went to sleep Friday afternoon, the Kabbalist, and was tired from travel. He wakes up, he's very close to the city. However, he didn't have intention to settle in the city, so he doesn't really have the...
I gather this is on Shabbos now?
Yeah, he wakes up Friday night. Yeah. He sees that he's next to the city. So it says, Lo yikanis la'ir. Lo yikanis, he can't go in. He's only able to go into the city the amount that his 2,000 amos allow him. So he may be able to enter in the city, but Lo yikanis means he doesn't go into the city as a city member. Now, if he would have said, if you can see the city, and say that that's where I'm spending Shabbos. Problem is, he didn't notice the city there until he woke up, or until after Shabbos came in. Reb Meir, that's Reb Meir's opinion. His opinion is that it doesn't automatically take him into the city. Rabbi Yehuda Yikanis. Rabbi Yehuda says no, you can go into the city. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, "My say of a nichnas Reb Tarfon blame miskaven." You have a story that Reb Tarfon was outside the city, and he entered the city even though he didn't have intention to be in that city, but he was in the tchum of the city, and he considered it that he was part of the city, even though he didn't have clear intention to be part of the city, but because he was in the tchum of the city, that was enough. Tanya, Gemara says, we're starting a brayso. The brises give us always more details. It's like not as edited. So there was a story where Tarfon was on the road. Got dark, and he rested. Went to bed outside the city. L'shachas. He wakes up in the morning. Matzorei bakar. Sees shepherds. Amrloi, Rebbe, Harei lefanacha. Ikanis v'nichnas. There's the city is right there. Go inside. So he go inside. Nichnas. He went inside. V'yasher beis medrash. He went into the beis medrash. V'darish kalei kulei, and he gave drushes the whole day. So you see, he held that it was enough. He didn't even realize that he was within 2,000 amos of the city, but it wasn't a problem for him. He held that you're allowed to go in. So probably Amrullah or something similar to that. Amalei Rabbi Akiva, the Shiltis has. The Shiltis is Rabbi Choy guy. That's one of the earlier guys. And he quotes these things, it goes according to the Parsha. It was sort of a closed book until the Netziv wrote Hemek Shaila. He wrote popularized the Shiltis into more of like a Lamdish essay. So Amrullah or Rabbi Kiva said to them, Misham Raya, that you bring a Raya from the story with your Tarf and Shema Beliba. Maybe he had intention beforehand. Maybe he knew that he was within the tchum. How do you know he was within that he didn't know? He didn't say anything. Or maybe you bring a raya that he sat in a beis medrash in the city. Maybe the 2,000 amos ended right outside the beis medrash on the other side. The beis medrash was still within his 2,000 amos. It doesn't say he walked from one end of the city to the other. He went to the beis medrash. Beis medrash could have been at the entrance to the city. So you don't have a raya from it. I think there's other places where Rabbi Yehuda brings a raya from a story and Paskins based on the story, the way he understood it, and the Chachamim tell him that from that story there's no raya. Now we have this in the Brisa and Sukkah with Hilni Amalka. She sat in a sukkah that was over 20 amos. Rabbi Yehuda says for sure it's kosher over 20 amos because she had a sukkah like that. And her sons were together with her. It's clear that it's kosher. They said, nah, the sons were in the other sukkah. So he has a story, and the question was like, what were the details of that story to prove it? Okay, we have a new Mishnah. Mish yashem b'derech v'lo yada. It's supposed to be probably ad shecha shecha. He doesn't know. He's asleep when Shabbos comes in. When he wakes up, Shabbos has already begun. So, how does Shvisa work? Shvisa means you have a location. Do you get the location automatically just because that was your location? Do you need some sort of intention that this is my location? He was asleep during this, so he doesn't have any intention. He was kind of Shvisa. He has the location. That's his spot. He was asleep, but nevertheless, that's his spot. I'm going to say no. He doesn't have any shvisa. He has 4 amos. He's stuck there. He missed the time that Shabbos enters. He's not in any tchum. It wasn't kind of shvisa. He's just like outside a tchum and with nothing. He just has 4 amos. He's stuck there. Rabbi Eliezer Reimer, V'hu b'emtzah. Unless it says, what's the 4 amos that he has? He has 2 amos to each side. Rabbi Yehuda says no. He actually has 4 amas to any side that he wants. It doesn't say that you have 4 amas or that you have 8 amas. It says that you have 4 amas. But it's not like Rebbe Lezer that says you're in the center and you really only have 2 amas to each side. You get to choose to which side you want those 4 amas to go, and then you're stuck. So you have 4 amas, but it could go that way. Once you choose that it's that way, then you can't go at all back. So your decision, your initial decision of which 4 amas you want, you do get 4 amas. It's like a pole, and it falls over. That's the side you're on. Okay, Hayushnayim. There's 2 people. We're social distancing. And there's 2 people there. But they're overlapping. This one's 4 amas overlaps the other one's 4 amas. It's 2 people. So in the center, they're sharing an amma or 2. That's how you learn this, like Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Yehuda. They're sharing 3 amas if you're learning like Rabbi Yehuda. So, what do? They eat their food in the center, because that area they can share. The only thing that you have to be careful is that he can't take food from that started in his friend's location, now bring it over into his own location, because then the food, we're claiming here that the food is kind of shvisa. Not kind of shvisa. It gets the limitations that the owner has. And the owner only has 4 amas, and his food also only has 4 amas. So you have Reuben and Shimon. So Shimon can't end up with Reuben's food going into to 2 of the amas that's on the other side of it. They're sharing the center. You can't bring the food over, because the food also has the limits. Food also has those limits. Okay, Rashi has a question over here. What was your whole Gemara before that said that if you end up in a city, you end up surrounded, that you can't walk further, but you can throw things further? What are you telling me, that the objects have the limitations of the person? It's clearly not. We said you can throw things out of your limitations, according to whichever opinion. Rav Nachman, Rav Huna. So Rashi gives some explanations, and Marshal sort of take out pieces of Rashi and say it's a mistaken addition. It's possible that the pshat is the way we said, that those items were not actually belonging to the person, so they didn't have the limitations of the person. Those were items that were already there within the area, and those had the entire area to move around. And over here we're dealing with items that are belonging to the person with him when Shabbos came in, and they have the restrictions of the 4 amas. That would fit with at least Masha. That's the way we explained it before. Let's say there's 3 people. And the middle person, he is overlapping both of them. So he's allowed to eat with them, with either one. And they can eat with him. But they can't, the 2 outer ones don't overlap each other. So they cannot exchange food. What is it similar to? Talking about Eiruvin. You have 3 courtyards, 1, 2, 3. Each one has its own openings. So they don't need to walk through each other, but they want to share the common areas. So A makes an Eruv with B, which is fine. And B makes an Eruv with C, which is fine. So B and C can share the location, and A and B can share the location. But moving items or in the courtyards, between courtyards. But A and C can't because they never contributed together. If they would have to walk through, then it would be a big problem because each one has its own exit. If they didn't have their own exit, you had to walk through. They had to walk through B's, the B, B, walk through C to get to the Rishis Rabbim, and A didn't make an Eruv with C, then they would ask the usage of the area for everyone. That's when someone doesn't contribute. Okay, by Rava. Rava has a question. We mentioned that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri held that the person that fell asleep, he gets his Eruv automatically while he's asleep. Rava has a question. What's really the logic of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri? Micah Savar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. What is his logic? Does he hold that even if it would have been items, that they're also kind of shvis? If no one owns the items, what's the limitation on those items? No one can make any decision on them because no one owns them. So when Shabbos comes in, did they automatically get 2,000 amas? Or are those hefker items stuck with 4 amas? Or maybe those hefker items will pick up any status of whoever picks them up on Shabbos. What does he hold? In other words, I know what he holds about a person. That the person is kind of shvisi, gets 2,000 amas. What does he hold about chefzi hefker? I know what he holds about a person that's sleeping. What does he hold about items that are sleeping? Sleeping from ownership. They have no. So really, it could be that really he would argue about utensils as well, and he would hold that utensils also, without an owner, also get 2,000 amas. It's the same thing. A sleeping person and chefzi hefker is the same. So why did he say that the person gets 2,000 amas? He could have said kalim get 2,000 amas, and that would have been a bigger chiddush. Chefzi hefker. And he wants to show that the Rabbanan say that even an Adam only gets 4 amas. That's why we chose to discuss a Adam, because of the chiddush that we're going to get from hearing the Rabbanan's opinion. We could have thought that if he just would have been awake, he would have been kind of 2,000 amas all around him. It's kind of shvisa that he could walk 2,000 amas. Kamash malan, Deloy. I could have thought that the Rabbanan would agree, Kamash malan, that they argued that he only has 4 amas because he was asleep. And that's why we're talking about an Adam. We're talking about a person that's asleep. Or maybe it's different. Maybe Ksav Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Balma Chefzi Hefker ain't kind of Shrisa. Really, the halacha would have been different by Chefzi Hefker. It also wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been Chefzi Hefker. Items that are ownerless get 2,000 amas. We wouldn't have said that. It's specifically Adam. And over here, why does he hold that by an Adam it does work? So we say, if he would have been awake, then he would have got 2,000 amas. So if he's asleep, he also gets 2,000 amas. We look at him like as if he would have been awake. By Kalim, for some reason, we don't look at them as if they would have been owned by someone that had, like, how do you know who's going to pick it up? Right? But by another, if he would have been awake, that he would have owned himself. He would have been kind of shvisa. Amar Rav Yosef Tashma. Rav Yosef says, I'll bring you a proof what Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri holds. Come in here. If it rained in Erev Yom Tov, you have these puddles. So how far can you walk with this water? You're allowed to carry on Yom Tov, but how far can you take the water? Well, it rained Erev Yom Tov. So that water has its location, 2,000 amas. Okay? It seems to tell us that Chefzi Hefker kind of shvis. Be Yom Tov, let's say it rains actually on Yom Tov. It goes according to any person. Taisvus over here explains the first guy that picks it up that's the limit on the water. Basically, it wasn't kind of its own shvisa. That's what we see. But that's because it rained on Yom Tov. It wasn't kind of shvisa wherever it was, the clouds. It goes according to the person. It doesn't have the stringency that we said before, that it only has valid amos. It goes according to the person. Not sure why. So it works out well if you say if you hold that if you say that Shita of Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri is that a person that's sleeping and Chefze Hefker, both of those are kind of shvisa, they get 2,000 amas. So good, this water that rained before Yom Tov gets 2,000 amas. Chefze Hefker is exactly the same, like an Adam gets 2,000 amas. Water and the person are the same. But if you say that it's not kind of shvisa, Chefze Hefker, ownerless items, including water, is not kind of shvisa. So, according to Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri, if you say that, so now I have a brisa that this water is kind of shvisa. It does have 2,000 amos from its location. So, who's the author of this brisa? Lei Rabbi Yechon. It's not Rabbi Yechon because he holds that it doesn't get 2,000 amos. Lei Rabbanan. It's not the Rabban neither. Rabbanan said it's only Dalet amos. So we don't have an author for this brisa. Okay, it's a proof. Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri holds that Chefze Hefker kind of shvisa, just like another.
Isn't Nolad?
Oh, the Gemara is going to ask that over there.
Oh, okay.
And Nolad, the Gemara is going to ask Nolad in a moment, on the top of the next page. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, Yosef Abaya. Who said over this proof? It was Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef is the teacher of Abaya. Yosef Abaya. Abaya said over the saying of his teacher that we have a proof. What's the opinion of Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri about Chefze Hefker? That they are kind of shvisa, we have a proof from water. Hamali Rav Safra la Abaya. Rav Safra tells to Abaya, Bedilma, maybe really Chefze Hefker not kind of shvisa. However, this water is close to the city. But Anshe Esir Daitam Alayu, and the people of the city have intention about this water. So it gets 2,000 amos because of the people. It's not really Chefze Hefker. There's already people that are thinking about it. They're not kainet, but maybe for shvisa, this is enough. Yeah. Totally thinking about Habata Behefker and all of those Cheshem Mishpah things. Yakaina Metzia. So, Amarle, Abaya says, don't think like that. The Tanan, I'll prove it to you, that Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri has a shita that it's kind of shvisa. Reb Safra was suggesting to Abaya that maybe the details of that story are going to change the way you understood Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri. You understood Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri that Chefze Hefker kind of shvisa be from the water, but maybe there's a detail in that story that messes all of that theory up. The detail is that it was not right next to a city and the people had intention for that water. So it says, don't say like that, because the Tanan we have a Mishnah, Bar Shel Yachid Karagli Yachid, a pit or a cistern that collects water. That water is like the individual that owns it. Shalei Seir, if it's a cistern of the city, Karagli Seir. Okay. Shalei Bavel. This is, I guess, water that's on the road. Hefker water. It goes according to the shvisa of the person that filled up the water. It's not kind of shvisa. It's hefker. It's not kind of shvisa. It gets the status of whoever fills it up. What happens if it changes hands? I think it stays by the first person who fills up. That's what it appears to be from Tosfos. Bitanya, but I have another brisa. It says Bar Shel Shvatim, which is also hefker. It has 2,000 amas. Kashanad Dadi, we have a contradiction between brisas. Hefker water 2,000 amas, or according to the person that picks it up. I says, see, how do we resolve the contradiction? One of the options is to say it's machlokes. So, once you answer the contradiction, I see Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri's opinion is that Chepzi Hefker is kind of shvisa. Kiyasala Kami de Rabbi Yosef. Abaye had this conversation with Reb Safra. Reb Safra asked him a good question. He gave him a good teretz. Comes back to Rabbi Yosef to talk over what happened, how Abaye protected Rabbi Yosef's explanation. He says, this is what Reb Safra said, and this is my answer to him. That you have to say Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri holds that it's kind of shvisa, just like you said with the water that rained before, that it was Yesh Lamapayim Mamlech Ruach. We said, why do you have to bring a maraya from two other brises? I said a brisa earlier. That brisa itself proves the point. If you would claim Reb Safra's claim that really that water has its own is kind of 2,000 amas because of the people in the city. It shouldn't have said that it gets 2,000 amas. It should have said that it gets the status of the people of the city, which is 2,000 amas. But the wording was wrong. It's not 2,000 amas from its location. It's 2,000 amas around the whole city, which is what the people have. It didn't say it right. If you're going to use Reb Safra's explanation, then the wording is wrong in that price itself. Okay, Amar Mar. It's taught. Yom Tov rain karagli kaladam. On Yom Tov, if it rains on Yom Tov, it gets the status of whoever picks it up. The understanding here is that the oceans evaporate, and Masha Baruach, wind blows, the Geshem, it comes down. Where was the water before Yom Tov? It was in the ocean. So when Yom Tov came in, it rained on Yom Tov. Where was the water when Yom Tov came in at the beginning of Yom Tov? It was in the ocean. So why isn't it kind of shvisa in the ocean? Why are you giving it the status of whoever picks it up? It had a location. It was somewhere in the ocean. So, Lamed like Rebbe Lezer must be that we don't follow the opinion of Rebbe Lezer. Rebbe Lezer held that the whole world is sustained by the waters of the ocean, as opposed to the underground waters. The question is the rivers and the lakes. Where's that water coming from? Is it coming from the ocean, according to Rebbe Lezer, or is it coming from underground? So it must be we don't follow Rebbe Lezer because we didn't give it the status of the ocean. Good teretz. The water was already in the clouds when Yom Tov came in. Maybe there's different clouds. How do you know? How do you know the water was in the clouds already? You can recognize the clouds. They already had the cumulonimbus and strata and whatever the names. They forget the names of the clouds. Alta something. Strata. So they could recognize the clouds. They were there already. That's a good teretz. Why you're looking for a chumrah? Maybe it was over there in the ocean. No, we don't know if it was in the. You don't have to suspect. It's a derabanan. That's the Gemara suggesting that it's tchumen. Yes, tchumen is a derabanan. Maybe it's totally a derabanan. Maybe it's just on items. It's a derabanan. I'm not sure, but. This points out an interesting thing, but it's a davar sheish l'matirim, and we don't say safek derabanan makula by a davar sheish l'matirim. Just wait for the heter. Davar sheish l'matirim means you can move it or wherever you want. That's the yamtiv. Anyway, so it's a derabanan. So that's very belina. The Gemara says, "V'liknei shvisa ba'avim." Let it get the tchum of the clouds. There's a limitation on the cloud. 2,000 amas from wherever the cloud was. Tifshit minei dein tchum l'mayla miyod. This must be a support to the theory that we had yesterday, that there's no tchumen above 10 tvachim. Above 10 tvachim has some other rishos, makom p'tur, whatever. Tchumen is only under 10 tvachim. The yesh tchumen, if there is tchumen above 10 tvachim, liknei shvisa ba'avim, it should acquire its location in the clouds. The Gemara says, "Leila me'melach yesh tchumen." Really, I could say that there is an issue of tchumen above yod. So why doesn't it acquire shvisa? My be'iva mivla bili. Water in the clouds doesn't really exist. It's in a different state. It's the three states of matter. This is it's in a gas form. I don't know if it's really in a gas form. It's a water vapor. Gas is something else, but it's not considered. It's not considered water at that point. So the Gemara says, "Kolshkein, you have a problem, Daniel. This is your question. If it's in a different state, so then Kolshkein davel noilad dasiri. Then how can you allowed to drink it b'chlal? It's noilad. You have a problem. Things that are formed on Yom Tov. Elamai above him meinad naidi. It's not because they were in a different state. They're actually there. The water is actually there. The only thing is, it's not kind of shvisa because of its movement. We said before, a boat has such an issue. It's moving around. It doesn't really have a location. Once he answered this question about the clouds, so then the water in the ocean is also moving. So you don't have to go back and say the clouds were, it was already in the clouds and you recognize the clouds and all of that. There was no shvisa on the water before because the water was moving in the ocean. Betanya, and it was taught in the Bryce, Nahar, Samoishka, and Mayanas, and every Kragli Kalada. The Bryce says that it takes on the status, the waters that are in rivers, or it takes on whatever status the person that lifts it up is. Why doesn't it have its own status? It had a location when Yom Tov came in. No, it was moving. It doesn't have a location. It's proof to this logic. Rabbi Yaakov Baridi, Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri. Yaakov Baridi says in the name of Rabbi Shua ben Levi that Allah is like Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri. Amalei Rabbi Zeira, the Rabbi Yaakov Baridi. Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri held that it's kind of shvisa wherever it is, right? Just like the person is kind of shvisa. Actually, love that we're going to extend it to items. Definitely the person. Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri said about the person is kind of shvisa. Even though he was asleep. Rabbi Yosef claimed that it was also going on. It was also going on Chavtzei Hefka. We weren't sure if it was going on. Okay, so Rabbi Zeira asks Rabbi Yaakov Baridi, this that you said in the name of Rabbi Shua ben Levi that Allah is like Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri, befeirer shmielach. Did you hear it clearly, or did you imply it from something else? Amalei befeirer shmielach. I heard it clearly. Shua ben Levi said, Halach Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri. My klala, what was his question that you understand it from it being implied? In other words, what implication could there have been that would have led to that? And that's why he was asking, did you clearly hear this? Because we have another statement. Shua ben Levi says, Allah is like the lenient opinion by Eiruvin. B'tarti lamali. Well, Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri is clearly the lenient opinion. So why does he have to say it another time? Allah is like Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri. The statement, Kedivra Mekel, would have covered that. Amar Rav Zeir Tzrichi, it's necessary. If he would have only said Allah is like Rabbi Yechon ben Nuri, we would have understood that it applies to people that he doesn't have Dalet Amis. The guy's asleep. He has 2,000 Amis, like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says. And I also would have understood that if the person is walking and he comes across Cheftzei Hefker, I would have thought that Cheftzei Hefker also only gives him 2,000 Amas from the location of the Cheftzei Hefker. But he can't actually carry it, his 2,000 Amas. He's going to have to put it down somewhere because it had its own location. Bein lakula, bein lachumra. In other words, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri also would give Cheftzei Hefker, according to the way Rabbi Yosef explained, it would give that its own location, which would limit the person carrying it. So that's why we need the other statement. We don't pass like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri by Cheftzei Hefker. We go by the lenient opinion, and it gets the status of whoever picks it up. You can carry those items for however far you want. Okay, so just go the other way. Just say the halacha is kedivri hamekel. Why do you have to say it all? Halacha kedivri Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. It says halacha kedivri Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri lamali. Why do you have to say that? It's necessary. Sal kedayt chamina hani mini yachid b'makam yachid v'rabim b'makam rabim. Aval yachid makam rabim meimalai. I would have thought halacha kedivri hamekel only when it's an argument one against one, but here it's one against the rabbim. I wouldn't have known halacha kedivri hamekel. I would have thought that statement is only when it's an equal argument. I'll decide that. But over here, yachid v'rabim still halacha kedivri hamekel. So we have to say halacha Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri to show that. Yes, we'll have to stop.